In a world where humanity's arrogance ignites nature's wrath, climate collapse triggers apocalyptic storms. Nations unite to build Dutch boy satellite network to control Earth's weather. But when salvation becomes a weapon, one man must race against time to stop a global geostorm. The cure becomes the disease. Watch as satellites meant to save us unleash chaos. Stay till the end where betrayal, sacrifice, and a brotherhood forged in fire will leave you breathless. Opening scene 2019, the Earth screams. 20 lakh lives vanish in a heatwave, deserts drown, cities freeze. Jake Lawson Gerard Butler, the maverick engineer behind Dutch Boy, activates the system illegally to stop a hurricane saving millions, but costing him his career. As hurricanes devoured continents and heatwaves turned cities to ash, humanity faced extinction. Nations abandoned borders, uniting under a single mission, Dutch Boy, a climate-controlling Leviathan orbiting Earth, spearheaded by rogue engineer Jake Lawson Gerard Butler. This satellite network could bend weather to humanity's will, or doom it forever. All the countries successfully prevented numerous storms with the help of the Dutch Boy satellite before ultimately destroying it. After this, we are introduced to Jake Lawson, the brilliant scientist who originally designed the satellite system. Today, a meeting was held before an American press conference where Jake Lawson was publicly criticized. The officials pointed out his mistakes, accusing him of bringing Dutch Boy online without proper authorization. Jake Lawson clarifies that he activated Dutch Boy solely to prevent catastrophic storms from striking Earth. However, no one listens to him, and he is ultimately fired. The officials declared that they will manage the satellite system with their own team. After this, Jake Lawson meets his brother, Max, who had also attended the press conference. In truth, Max was behind it all, driven by jealousy and resentment toward his older brother. Max, refusing to discuss the matter further, coldly informs Jake that the satellite is now under his control. With that, he walks away, leaving Jake in the shadows. The scene then transitions to 3 years later. In the desert of Afghanistan, a group of soldiers witnesses something bizarre: a sudden snowstorm. The temperature plummets to unimaginable lows, freezing everything in its path, including all the people in the area. As a soldier touches one of the frozen bodies, it shatters instantly, shocking the team. News reaches America, prompting the president to call an emergency meeting. Officials then uncover a shocking truth: the satellite over Afghanistan has malfunctioned, triggering the deadly freeze. As the temperature continues to drop, the president orders Max to find a capable person to travel to the satellite and fix it immediately. After the meeting, Secretary of State Leonard Deckham suggests that Jake Lawson would be the perfect man for the job. Because Jake has successfully led similar missions in the past, he is seen as the best choice. Meanwhile, aboard the International Space Station, the malfunctioning Afghan satellite is brought in for inspection. Unbeknownst to the crew, a technician discreetly inserts a hard drive into the satellite, transferring all its data. After transferring the data, he removes the hard drive and hides it in his locker along with his documents. However, as he moves through the next chamber, the doors suddenly lock behind him. Within moments, the airlock opens, exposing him to the vacuum of space, and he is violently sucked out, meeting a tragic end. Meanwhile, Max visits his brother, Jake, and informs him that the Dutch Boy satellite has malfunctioned. He urges Jake to help them fix it before the situation worsens. But Jake initially refuses to help. However, when Max reveals that many people in Afghanistan have died due to the satellite's failure, Jake reluctantly agrees. Meanwhile, in Hong Kong, we are introduced to Chung Long, a satellite systems engineer. By this time, the temperature in Hong Kong has risen drastically. Chung had gone to a store to buy water and eggs. As he placed his groceries in his car, a few eggs slipped from his hand and fell to the ground. Chung watches in shock as the scorching heat instantly cooks the fallen eggs on the pavement. Suddenly, the ground begins to crack open before him, and molten lava erupts, engulfing everything in its path. Chung quickly jumps into his car and speeds away, narrowly escaping the chaos. Once he drives far enough from the city, he stops and looks back, witnessing the entire city consumed by boiling lava, the streets disappearing under a sea of molten rock. In the next scene, we see Jake with his daughter, who pleads with him not to go into space. Fearful for his safety, she worries that something might happen to him, just like the dangers he has faced before. On the way, his daughter tearfully tells Jake that he must return safely. Jake reassures her with a promise that he will come back no matter what. After this, he arrives at NASA headquarters, where he sees several rockets preparing for launch. Without hesitation, he boards one of them. Moments later, the rocket ignites and blasts off into space. Jake's rocket soon reaches the International Space Station, where he is greeted by Ute Fassbinder, a German scientist overseeing operations. As he steps inside, he hears strange noises coming from the satellite system. Concerned, he tells Ute that multiple satellites appear to be malfunctioning and must be repaired immediately. He then meets the rest of the crew, each an expert in their respective fields, ready to assist in the mission. That night, Max receives an urgent call from Chang in Hong Kong. Chang explains that the city's underground pipes didn't just burst from normal pressure, they overheated due to an extreme temperature rise. He suspects that Dutch Boy's malfunction is responsible for the disaster. Chang also reveals that he has repeatedly tried to connect to Dutch Boy through the Hong Kong satellite, but each attempt has resulted in a system failure. Chang tells Max that he suspects someone inside his company is behind this, deliberately using Dutch Boy to trigger disasters and destroy the world. Suddenly, a group of men arrives at Chang's location, forcing him to hide in another room to avoid being seen. The next day, Max brings a hard drive to his trusted assistant, Dana, at the office. When she attempts to access the Afghanistan satellite's data, she discovers that it has been completely locked, preventing anyone from retrieving or fixing the system. Realizing they have no access to the satellite, Max quickly contacts Jake in space. As Jake analyzes the situation, he comes to a chilling conclusion: this isn't a system failure or a random malfunction. Someone is deliberately sabotaging Dutch Boy. Jake had suspected foul play from the start, but now he was completely certain. Meanwhile, Max warns him that from this point on, every action he takes must be reported first. If not, Max will have him recalled to Earth immediately. Back in space, the Afghanistan satellite is being repositioned. Jake and his team arrive to oversee the process, but suddenly, the robotic arm gripping the satellite malfunctions, spiraling out of control. As the robotic arm malfunctions, Ute Fassbinder, the German scientist, is nearly killed, but Jake manages to save her just in time. However, the Afghanistan satellite is completely destroyed in the chaos. With no choice, they prepare to send another satellite for repairs. While analyzing the damage, they realize that due to the technical failure, all of Afghanistan's hard drives were lost along with the satellite. But then they spot one remaining hard drive lodged onto their station. Determined to retrieve it, Jake and Ute venture out into space for a high-risk recovery mission. Jake carefully detaches the hard drive from the satellite, but as he makes his way back, his suit malfunctions, sending him drifting into the depths of space. Struggling against the pole, he reaches the edge of the station just in time and grabs onto a wire, narrowly saving himself from being lost forever. Back inside, Jake shows Ute the recovered hard drive, proving that he successfully retrieved the critical data. Soon, the rest of the crew arrives, realizing the importance of what Jake has just recovered. Jake keeps the hard drive's discovery a secret from the rest of the crew and confides only in Ute. He tells her that someone tried to kill him to prevent them from uncovering the truth hidden in the hard drive. When they analyze the data, they discover that the codes of the Afghanistan satellite were deliberately altered, proving it was sabotage. Meanwhile, on Earth, Max waits at a meeting spot for Chang. After some time, Chang finally arrives, but just as he starts crossing the road, a mysterious man suddenly pushes him in front of an oncoming car speeding toward him. Before he dies, Chang manages to utter the word Jews, hinting at something crucial before his last breath. Afterward, Max contacts Jake once again. This time, Jake communicates with him using their secret code language, signaling that there is a traitor within the government working to destroy the world. Understanding the gravity of the situation, Max realizes that the conspiracy runs deeper than they thought. Determined to get to the bottom of it, Max heads back to meet with his friend, seeking answers. Max tells his friend to look into the Jews' files, but his friend quickly realizes that they need a login ID to access them. Max goes to his girlfriend, asking her for the login ID. Initially, she refuses to cooperate, but after Max persists, she eventually agrees to share the information. Meanwhile, in space, Jake and Ute examine CCTV footage from the day of the satellite malfunction. They spot the German scientist discreetly inserting some unknown data into his hard drive. Jake realizes that the scientist must have uncovered the secret, further confirming his suspicions about the conspiracy. Realizing that the scientist was likely killed to cover up the conspiracy, Jake notices that the scientist had taken the hard drive and gone to the locker room. He quickly follows, but as he arrives, a security officer suddenly appears behind him, aiming a gun at Jake. However, this officer isn't part of the group responsible for the sabotage. Instead, he hands Jake the scientist's files, which also contain the hard drive. Upon reviewing the drive with Ute, Jake discovers that it contains a virus that has been planted in the entire satellite network. Just then, Max contacts Jake again, warning him that someone is actively trying to destroy the world by taking down the entire satellite system. Meanwhile, Jack explains to his brother Max that someone has inserted a virus into their system, and it's being controlled from the inside. He reveals that only the president has the backdoor code needed to control the entire system. Max, however, is skeptical and questions why the president would do such a thing. Before leaving, Jack insists that to fix everything, they need access to the system's backdoor code and urges Max to steal it. Determined to get the code, Max heads straight to his girlfriend, hoping she can help him steal it. Max's girlfriend agrees to help him steal the backdoor code. Meanwhile, Jack discovers that over 200 satellites have been damaged, causing storms to form across the globe. His worst fear soon becomes a reality as a massive geostorm hits Brazil, freezing everyone in its path to death. Meanwhile, Max informs the Secretary of State about the growing crisis, but as the conversation unfolds, Max begins to realize that the Secretary of State is not as innocent as he seems. Through his words and actions, Max uncovers that the Secretary of State is behind the entire operation, orchestrating the destruction of the world. The Secretary of State attempts to kill Max, but Max manages to escape just in time. Meanwhile, Jack uncovers the identity of the person who planted the virus in the satellite system. In a furious confrontation, Jack beats the man, but the attacker starts shooting at him. One of the bullets ricochets off the glass, causing it to crack. Seeing an opportunity, Jack quickly makes his escape, and the man is ultimately sucked out into space, meeting his end. Back on Earth, Max urgently tells his girlfriend that the Secretary of State is behind everything. They must act fast to get the president out of danger, as the president is the only one with access to the backdoor code for the system. Max realizes they need the president's fingerprints to access the backdoor code. To create a diversion, Max's girlfriend fires a gun in the middle of a speech, causing chaos in the stadium. In the midst of the confusion, she manages to smuggle the president out of the venue and into their car. On the way, Max reveals to the president that the Secretary of State wants to kill him and take his place as president. Meanwhile, the planet experiences extreme weather, with some places freezing cold while others are unbearably hot. As Max and the president are making their escape, they are ambushed by a group of the secretary's men. However, Max's girlfriend uses her driving skills to evade the attackers and save them. Meanwhile, in space, the crew aboard the satellite launches their rockets, fleeing from the impending disaster. As the satellite begins to deteriorate, the crew prepares to escape. However, Jack refuses to leave, knowing that someone must stay behind to restart the satellite once Max sends him the kill code. Jack sends everyone else to safety, staying on the satellite to face the risk alone. Meanwhile, the Secretary of State is tracking the president's car. When he sees it approaching, he remotely detonates a bomb, believing he has successfully killed the president. However, just as he celebrates, Max's girlfriend takes him at gunpoint, gaining control over the secretary and making him a prisoner. As the satellite begins to deteriorate, the crew prepares to escape. However, Jack refuses to leave, knowing that someone must stay behind to restart the satellite once Max sends him the kill code. Jack sends everyone else to safety, staying on the satellite to face the risk alone. Meanwhile, the Secretary of State is tracking the president's car. When he sees it approaching, he remotely detonates a bomb, believing he has successfully killed the president. However, just as he celebrates, Max's girlfriend takes him at gunpoint, gaining control over the secretary and making him a prisoner. As the world teeters on the brink of destruction due to the Dutch boy satellite, Jack rushes to the system room to reboot the satellite before it's too late. As he navigates through the station, he watches in horror as satellites around him are destroyed. Determined, Jack takes a different route, pushing forward with urgency. When he reaches the system room, he attempts to unlock it, but realizes he doesn't know the combination. Just then, Ute, the German scientist, appears behind him. She, too, had stayed behind with Jack. Together, they manage to reboot the satellite, which temporarily shuts it down and halts the natural disasters that had been ravaging Earth. However, as the satellite powers back on, it triggers a violent series of blasts. The room where Jack and Ute were stationed is obliterated. On Earth, people believe both Jack and Ute have perished in the explosion, leaving the world to wonder if the disaster can ever truly be stopped. Just as the Dutch boy satellite begins its final moments of destruction, Jack spots a satellite in the distance. He quickly ushers the German scientist, Ute, inside, and just before the satellite is completely obliterated, they manage to escape. Meanwhile, the other scientists on Earth see what's happening and launch a rescue rocket to save Jack and Ute. The rocket successfully reaches them, and everyone is overjoyed with their safe return. Once on Earth, Jack, Ute, and the rest of the team are celebrated for their heroism. In a heartwarming final scene, Jack, Max, and Jack's daughter are seen fishing together, a symbol of their reunited bond. However, it's revealed that Jack will return to space in a week, this time with a new, more advanced, and safer satellite that he has designed. The movie ends leaving the audience with hope for a safer future. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this movie explanation, don't forget to leave a comment saying next for more videos.